When we think of construction, similar images come to mind.
I'm the man of the house. I need like a man's job. I can't show weakness to these guys, Mom, I swear.
Stereotypical manly man getting dirty and working hard. These images seem to have led to a belief that construction jobs simply aren't for women. Research shows that 64% of Canadians and 69% of women still think that it's difficult for females to work in construction. One common misconception is that women don't have the physical strength to do these jobs, or that the work culture doesn't welcome them. Sadly, these perceptions seem to be turning women away from construction sites. Out of the 1.6 million Canadians working in construction, women represent only 12% of the whole industry and some 5% of workers on site. So why are women so underrepresented in the construction world? And more importantly, how do we change that? First of all, I wanted to understand how we build perceptions to a point where almost half of the population don't think they have a place in construction.
There's no reason why women couldn't be in the construction industry, but it's social factors, not individuals.
This is Dr. Lisa Smith, sociologist at Douglas College in British Columbia.
If we think about where these ideas about gender begin, whether it's how we think about ourselves or what we think we're capable of, this begins in childhood.
Introducing a big idea, the construction company's building. You'll never conquer Tonka.
When I think about our current society, one of the things that we've noticed with toys and children is that there has been a lot of changes. Companies like Lego have really started to introduce products that are marketed specifically to young girls. That said, one of the things I notice about these toys is that they still depict a really stereotypical idea of what it means to be a girl. So for example, toys that feature construction would be sold to girls because they're pink. It really creates a very one-dimensional idea of a traditional femininity. You're pink, you're feminine, you're girly.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
And that shows us that if you violate these norms or want to play with the normal or boys' versions of these toys, you're somehow no longer feminine. And this is really problematic and also helps us to think about some of the kinds of barriers that women might experience when entering these fields. Often they're questioned about their gender. They're often questioned about their sexuality. So this is why these kinds of one-dimensional depictions are problematic, and we want to push back against it.
Hi, I'm Jamie McMillan.
This is Jamie McMillan. She started working as an iron worker in 2002, when women only represented 2% of the workforce across Canada and the US.
The iron worker trade is actually considered one of the top 10 most dangerous jobs in the world. And it's kind of like I don't want to say it, but like sort of the Neanderthal strong, proud, knuckle draggers of the trade. Back then they had this conception that any woman who got into the trades was some masculine looking woman who, was like more of a farmer or something than a girl with like blonde hair.
Hey, guys.
Huh?
But to tell you the truth, it wasn't because there wasn't women there. It's that the women were so far and few between that they didn't know about each other. And it wasn't until social media came out and then all of a sudden all these groups started to get together and we discovered each other. And ever since then, we've been a tight network of women globally that are supporting each other. But when you look back through history, you've always seen women in male-dominated worlds, even going back into when the men went away to the war and the women took over and built the houses and ran the factories.
And it turned out that women were more than capable of meeting the challenges of factory work, including laboring in
So is it true that construction jobs are too physical for women?
Well, no, it isn't true. It might have been true years and years ago. Now they supply better coveralls, better PPE. They're being more understanding that women have different physiological differences, and so they're meeting those requirements. But overall, they're doing it for the betterment of the entire job site. So it's not just women that needs are being met now. Now it's the overall whole job site that the requirements are being met.
So what are some of the things that we can do to shift those perceptions that we have?
Yeah, again, I think it starts with childhood. Surrounding young people with adults and adult figures that can help them ask questions, that can help them be curious. And this everyday level is really important for normalizing the fact that, yes, it's completely normal for a woman to be in trades.
And that's exactly what Jamie set out to do. In 2014, she launched Kick-Ass Careers, an inclusive program to promote trade jobs to students.
And I love my career. How many of you would love to have a career that makes you really happy?
I am so blessed in that role because for far too long, kids in schools are always shown pictures or videos or talking about, the plumber and the fireman and the policeman, and it's always the man, the man, the man. And the kids have never really seen women rising up in this industry. So for me, I think it's so important to have women show up and show videos and build with the kids and say, hey, look, you can do this because I can do this. But the other important part of it is that the boys get to see it too, because the boys have been programmed to believe that girls don't belong in the industry. So when a young boy sees a girl coming into a school dressed up as a construction worker or showing their tools or showing videos of themselves at work and then working with them after, they go home and they're like, no, girls are in the industry. I know because one came to my school today. I get to talk to people about how skilled trades literally saved my life. It completely transformed everything about me. I struggled so much my whole life with ADHD. And when I found the skilled trades, the benefit of it was that it was something that I loved doing. I loved working with my hands. I loved the physical aspect of the job. I like going in and putting in a hard day's work. I mean, the harder you work, the faster the day goes, the funner it is. And you get to walk away and look at something and be like, damn, I built that, instead of walking away and not knowing where that paperwork's going to go. And when we look at the future, a lot of jobs are going to be eliminated. But one thing that can't be eliminated is we're always going to need people to build and maintain infrastructure, all the way from the space station to the deepest mine underground. You need hands-on careers to sustain those. And that's what I'm trying to make parents see, is that these are viable lifetime careers. It's just such an amazing career. I can talk about that all day.
Another program that's been successful in attracting women to construction is Jill of all trades. Launched in 2014, it offers women-only workshops across Canada to introduce female high school students to the skilled trades. So I met up with Rosie Hessienne to learn more about it.
For them to experience something they haven't done before or experienced before, it's awesome. And they're with other girls like-minded, so they're all just coming to try something different, try something new. It's important that they feel safe. Nobody's going to say, well, you can't do that, or you're taking too long to learn that. It's all about helping them through that workshop and demonstrating that they can do these things. And some of these projects are quite complicated, and they make it through it. And they're very, very proud of themselves and feel very confident that they can move on in that particular trade. We're creating an awareness that, all these things can happen for young women, and to start those conversations at the dinner table.
The projects that I worked on that day, I created, I still have them. They're in my basement.
Rosie put me in touch with Dee Durant, a former participant at Jill of all trades.
It was definitely uncomfortable for me at first because I was doing something I'd never done before with people I don't know. But by the end of the day, I was like, holy crap, look at what I did. I soldered this together. Oh my gosh, if I can do this, what else can I do? And it just kind of gave me that confidence that, it's something I say all the time. The trades gave me the confidence I didn't know I needed. And Jill of all trades, that event really started me along the path that I'm on right now. I am a 309A construction and maintenance electrical apprentice, and I'm just starting my 4th term right now. So I'm over halfway to my journeyman's ticket, and I'm really, really excited.
But we tend to forget that construction isn't just about trade jobs. So I met up with Courtney Mans, Campus Canada lead at Pomerleau, one of the biggest construction companies in Canada. She's in charge of recruiting young workers for internships like engineers and project managers, mostly from universities and colleges from coast to coast.
A big barrier and a big perception that young people and young women in general have is that construction it's manual labor. You're working on site, boots on the ground, long hours, and that is still true for some areas of construction, but not all of it by any means. There are a lot of other opportunities within the innovation space, which is a very exciting space right now. that's something that's really growing. Also, other opportunities on the design side. There are opportunities in safety. There's really no limit to those opportunities that are being made available.
Whoa.
Even now, when individual, like even my family, when they ask me, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm in the construction field. They're like, what, you're a construction worker?
That's Victoria Cinelli, a third-year student at Vanier College, where she's studying to become an architectural technologist on construction sites.
There's so much more to the construction industry than being a part of building the physical building. That's the benefit of being an architectural technologist, because you learn so much in school in terms of the different concepts of engineering, landscaping, interior design. You're able to be a part of so much more when you're actually in the field. And it was nice seeing what I was working on plan, and then seeing it being in production when we actually would go on site. I think that was the most interesting part for me. There's so many things you could touch base on when you actually go into the field.
And actually in this program, there are more women than men, is that right?
Yeah, so as just looking at the numbers, you can see that stigma of male-dominated industry is, in my opinion, no longer there. It's not much of an issue. I feel as though everyone understands that you're here to put what you have on the table, and that's all that matters.
There's a lot of appetite right now for female interns to join the industry and to join our company as well. Last year in 2024, a third of our interns were female, and this year in 2025, we're tracked to hire almost 50%.
What I did recognize is I remember when I got the trades and everybody was like, oh, stay away from the old school guys. They're the worst, they're not gonna like you because you're a girl. I found that they were the best. If you proved yourself to them and showed them that you were there for the right reasons, they took you under their wing and they became the best support. As long as you showed initiative and you asked questions and you tried your best, they were so supportive.
Each and every time we went on a construction site, of course, it was dominated by men. However, that didn't change our capability of learning that day. They were super informative. They actually were happy to be of a guide in a sense. And so I think there's a much more harmonious balance now than probably there was back then.
Some of the best advocates that I've seen have often been men who have stepped up and said, I'm going to initiate this because it's the right thing to do. And sometimes having that person who you don't expect step into the role of being an advocate, this can have a huge impact on the success of a campaign.
If you had one message to a young woman who might be hesitant to go in this industry, what would it be?
Try something new. Just try it. And maybe it's not for everyone, but if you become aware of all the different opportunities and positions and jobs and employment right after you get out of school, that it's incredible. It's an incredible journey.
Don't close the door because you're scared of what's on the other side. If there's a will, there's a way. And there's always going to be people cheering you on and supporting you. You just may not know them or see them.
How empowering it is to have these skills, how empowering it is to take these skills and use them to go so far beyond the skilled trades. Because everybody thinks, oh, skilled trades, what a dead-end job. You're just gonna work and, you're gonna ruin all your joints and your muscles and your back. Well, that's not the truth, because once you get in, you become a foreman, a general foreman, a project manager, a superintendent, you own your own company. I could go back to school, I can do engineering, or there's so many different things that you could get involved in. So it's not a dead-end career. It's actually one of the most profitable careers you can ever get into, because there's no limit to how far you can go.
Although women are still underrepresented in the construction industry, we're starting to feel a shift. Stats show that from 2022 to 2023, the number of women in construction grew by 25,000. And during the same time frame, the male labor force increased by only 15,000 workers. And with more women joining the industry, we can imagine that this progress is just the beginning.
I really want to push us to think about the hard work that previous generations had to do. in order to enter into sectors that were profoundly unwelcoming, in order to create space for the next generation of women and also gender diverse people into a variety of sectors. So there's no question that a lot of progress has been made.
I think that having more women on site has transformed the industry in such a positive way, because different perspectives is so important in an industry that's growing so rapidly. You need to have people that think differently and that act differently as well to be able to be forward thinking.
It's interesting, but more work is getting done. There's less antagonistic bullies on the job site because people are actually being kinder to a lot of the women. The most interesting thing is that the workplace safety has increased significantly. People are working smarter instead of harder. Women can work just as hard as guys, and sometimes women can work circles around the men. And I think that the biggest thing that we're seeing now is that companies are starting to realize that when the men and women can get along and work together, it's hugely beneficial all around.